Welcome to r/JustNoHOA, where people tell stories about their crazy homeowner associations that make us feel better about not living in an HOA. Without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled, Never Ever Again Will I Ever Live Somewhere That Is Managed by an HOA. So this is the second complex we have lived at over the years that has been managed by an HOA. We are renters fortunately, so we can eventually leave and move to a non-HOA managed residence in the future with relative ease. But these are the things that bother me the most about this particular HOA. The complex we live in is a 100 home PUD, beautiful park-like grounds but very provincial, suburban neighbors, we don't like this aspect, that is managed by an HOA comprised of board members who are homeowners here, but it is mainly managed by an off-site corporate HOA representative who really sucks, who has an out-of-sight, out-of-mind attitude. She does not live here, so to her it is just another job. Oftentimes it is hard to get a response from her as she manages other places and is overextended. We have known the HOA to be essentially ineffective and very slow to action. Currently, the HOA is not setting the tone for safety in the time of the virus at this complex. While we understand that they cannot enforce mask wearing and social distancing ordinances, they could send out notifications. As it stands now, there's not much social distancing being practiced and kids from different households hang out together for hours unmasked. Said kids also seem to not receive any guidance from parents, so they will not move out of the way on the public pathways when they see someone coming. It seems to be a universal truth that HOAs are inefficient, bureaucratic entities that take more than they give, and that is certainly the case with the one we have to deal with. The current issue is that they want to prune the trees months earlier than they normally would, right in the middle of baby bird season. We have noticed that they currently use a tree trimming service that is really bad at their job and butchers the crap out of trees. I am a tree person and this really irks me. In other words, they went with the lowest bidder, which is typical. As renters, we have also not been able to find any type of satisfactory recourse regarding the village alcoholic that lives across the field from us. He likes to play frisbee golf along the pathway, which runs right next to the side of our house, and as he gets more drunk, he sounds like a deranged crackhead yelling and screaming. I am not exaggerating. Since he is a long-time homeowner and is friends with the people on the board, they look the other way and have probably tossed out the legitimate complaints against him being a major nuisance. Of course, I am sure that if someone carried on like that outside their living room, there would be hell to pay. The HOA, this has to do with it being based on an inefficient bureaucratic model, is unable to adapt to changing circumstances and is by definition exclusionary, as they won't let long-term renters like one of us to sit on the board. Even if you have the ability to provide helpful, excellent feedback to help make the community better for everyone, thus it is undemocratic. We are still here because of financial reasons, which is not an uncommon scenario for most people these days, but I swear that this will be the last time I ever deal with an HOA. And a user in the comments said, I really don't think it is HOA territory to enforce any kind of virus restrictions, except maybe close the community gym/pool. It is definitely not their responsibility to manage residents who drink too much, call the cops for that. Vetting a tree groomer is something they should do, attend the meetings and voice your displeasure. Really, it just sounds like you want a more strict and controlling HOA. I will pass. As long as they pay the bills and keep the common spaces from falling apart, I am happy. They have no business telling my kids they cannot play outside with their friends. Damn guys, could you imagine that the OP in this story is secretly an HOA supporter? In addition, I am curious, do you think it is the HOA's responsibility to enforce any kind of virus, aka COVID restrictions? Let us know in the comments, and while you're at it, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments and also like the video if you enjoy my content. By the way guys, from what I've heard, nowadays there are a lot of bots in the comment sections on YouTube, and supposedly if you like their comments, you could get your account compromised. In order to make clear who's a bot and who's not a bot, I would really strongly suggest that you put some type of emojis or maybe especially the star emojis in the comments. This way we can be sure that you are not a robot. And the next one is a horrifying HOA story, and it is titled HOA is trying to force us to put down unnecessary gravel in our front yards. We have an HOA in Arizona that is suddenly forcing us to put in gravel in our front yard. It started last year when suddenly new management came in. They immediately started sending us a letter about a non-compliance of their property specifications. We had multiple emails back and forth because there is plenty of gravel in our yard. They keep telling us that we need more gravel and that the handbook says that. Well, how is it that for 19 years of this house existing, the previous owners and us never had any notice or issues with the HOA with the gravel? It's been the same thing as it was when the house was built in 2000, but as soon as the new management comes in, they start penalizing us for not having enough gravel. Through their emails, it kept getting clearer that they are really just trying to suck as much cash out of their residents as much as possible. We have been charged $75 already because of it, and worse, they are pushing it even more during COVID because we are during quarantine and are trying to pull the funds together to survive regularly, let alone afford a plus $1,500 cost in buying more gravel for our property. They know that the virus is impacting all the families in our neighborhood and they are taking advantage of it by pushing fees on us. We know it is not just us, as all of our neighbors have also told us about the sudden new letters coming in about missing gravel or any other BS that they seem fit to scam us with. What is our recourse for this and to not have to pay fees or put down the gravel? They cannot seem to understand that we need at least a year to gather the funds. We don't want to pursue lawyers because of the costs, but if we do, is there a high chance that we have a good case against the HOA? Too long didn't read. For the people who did not understand the story, HOA is misusing their own laws after new management to try to suck cash out of their residents during the hardest financial time possible. And a user in the comments mentioned, I live in Arizona and several years back we had to overthrow our HOA board where we lived at the time, so I am familiar with this kind of BS. You will have to check your bylaws, but typically they have to start with a violation letter, give you a specific time frame in which to correct the violation, and give you the opportunity to contest the violation with a hearing with the board. Before the above process has been followed, they cannot proceed with any fines, and any fines assessed before that are invalid and unenforceable even if the violation is legitimate. I forget what the state law is exactly, but as I remember you have something like 21 days to contact them by certified mail to request a board hearing. If they are at the point that they are already fining you, that window may have passed. You will then have to go through the CC&Rs to find the landscaping restrictions concerning gravel. If the house was built as recently as 2000, it should have a fairly detailed description of what kind, size and color of gravel is permitted and the depth to which the yard must be covered by said gravel. They cannot just arbitrarily decide that the gravel is not good enough for them without giving you a detailed explanation as to why exactly what you have had for the last 19 years is suddenly insufficient. Usually, as long as you don't have any bare patches, there's not too much that they can complain about, which is typically all that they are concerned with. As far as the fines are concerned, in Arizona they cannot foreclose for unpaid fines, only unpaid assessments. They also cannot apply any of your assessment payments to your fines without your permission. At least this was the case in 2017 when I last lived in an HOA. And guys, when I last lived in an HOA, you might as well also replace that with when I last was in a Russian Soviet gulag. That is about as much freedom as you get in an HOA. Anyway, you will have to check the state statutes to see if this has changed since then. What this means is that to an extent in Arizona, fines are something of an empty threat and they would have to take you to court to try to collect. If you're going to take the fight to this level and not pay the fines or comply with their demands, you will need to consult with an attorney. In our case, we ended up not having to pay any fines and ultimately recalled the entire board. However, it took $5,000 plus in legal fees and a considerable amount of time, effort and aggravation, which is why most people just cave in, pay the fines and do what the board tells them to do. As far as the management company is concerned, either they are just trying to rack up fees or they are acting under the direction of the boards to crack down on the community. And guys, that is really often the question. Are you really willing to take up this fight, go to court level and potentially invest thousands of dollars? Or, which is sort of easier but also kinda hurts your dignity if you ask me, to just cave in to the HOA mafia? Let us know what you would do in the comments. And guys, of course, if there's an update to this story in the future, I will post it. Either way, the next one is titled, Condo Board is telling me as of June 5th, the parking spot I own will be converted into a handicapped spot. But there are no other parking spots available. Is this legal? This started back in December. I own a parking spot that is right next to the 3 existing handicapped spots in my condo building. I have paperwork that says I am the owner of parking spot A5. Me and my wife inherited this condo from my mother. In December, apparently a new tenant moved in who requires a handicapped parking spot. However, our building already does not have enough parking for everyone. For roughly 100 units, we have maybe 50 spots tops. Back then, I was asked by the condo board if I was willing to give up my spot for these people who need a handicapped spot. I was okay with it until they explained there are no other available spots. Instead, they wanted me to sign over my parking spot in exchange for nothing. Apparently, in 2022, when the parking garage expansion will take place, I will be first on that list to receive one of the new spots. Until then, apparently, I am SOL, since this is downtown Toronto where parking is extremely limited. At that point, both me and my wife refused to sign anything. In February, the condo board yet tried to get me to sign paperwork again, and I refused. They offered to pay for a spot for me roughly 10 blocks away at another building. I told the condo board yet again I am not interested. They have tried to guilt both me and my wife numerous times about this. The tenant who needs the spot has approached me and my wife several times about how we are making her life a living hell. In April, the condo board during the board meeting thing put a vote asking for people to vote for the conversion of parking spots A5, A6, A7 to be converted into 2 handicapped parking spots. The motion passed, however, neither me or the people in A6/A7 are budging so far. Today I received a letter stating that as of June 5th, 2020, I will no longer be the owner of parking spot A5. I did not sign any paperwork and have told our condo board to piss off. My questions are, is this legal? Can the condo board take away our parking spot that we own? Do we have any sort of legal alternatives? And a user in the comments said, just to clarify, I'm not really trying to be a dick. However, these new people who moved in bought the unit fully knowing they were not buying a parking spot. Instead, from my understanding, is they expect the apartment building is to provide them a handicapped spot free of charge. A person in the comments said, this will likely be worth contacting a lawyer about. This is likely illegal, but will depend on what is in your home ownership documents, how is the parking spot defined and what exactly is included. And the condo bylaws, what are their powers and was proper procedure followed. If there are 2 other people affected by this decision, you might be able to get the same lawyer to represent you. Definitely worth fighting because it can affect the value of your place. Parking spots are a premium downtown. And in addition, if you were in OP's shoes, would you be willing to just give up your parking spot or would you fight it? Let us know in the comments. Update to the condo board's story in regards to the parking spot. Thank you all for the advice. We ended up talking to a lawyer on Tuesday and we paid him a small amount to write a nicely worded letter indicating that our condo board had no right to do what they are doing. The condo board has more or less agreed that they are in the wrong, yeah, F them, and will be pursuing other alternatives to create handicapped parking for this new owner. Today, the owner who wants the spot came to my door telling me that I need to move my car because as of today, it belonged to me. I explained to her what the condo board told me and she got very upset. For now, I am not going to move my car because I think she could be more of an issue than my condo board. To answer a few questions, I did offer the condo board an option to buy my spot for a stupidly high price of $200,000 and a guaranteed spot when they increase the parking space. They are not interested. I do in fact own this parking spot, it is owned by me and deeded to me. There is no street parking / stopping in front of our building. Handicapped spots are actually owned / managed by the building. The issue came to heads when the people who bought the condo had a verbal promise that there was available handicapped parking. However, not long after making that promise, another tenant needed a handicapped parking spot due to him being stuck in a wheelchair. So the spot ended up going to him. The actual owner who's complaining about this actually owns a non-handicapped spot, however, they refuse to trade it because they have 2 vehicles. Their other vehicle is one of those specialized minivans for wheelchairs. Finally, the owner who has been making all of this fuss has been trying to take the condo board to court over this. Anyways, thank you legal advice for your help. And the next one is titled, Property Manager Kicked Out My Contractors, What Would You Do? My first homeowner experience has been in a condominium association and it has been one hell of a nightmare. I've been through it all, started as the clueless one who had no idea what he was signing up for, been disgusted with the state of things, ran for the board to change it, got on the board, saw the same issue continue, and when I stood up against them, lost my board seat. Finally, I have realized there's no saving the place and moved out, prepping the place for sale. My condo is a townhome in a complex with many traditional condominiums in a high-rise. We are all held to the same rules, despite the fact that townhome units are much easier to access and we share the same parking area with assigned parking spaces for each unit. My unit suffered some water damage due to the negligence of the condo association, but my attorney just couldn't do anything about it, or so it seems. The case has been sitting for over a year. It seemed my best course of action was to move out and have some internal repairs made. Unfortunately for me, the virus came into play and the board and property manager found a new opportunity to make up stuff. Per our bylaws, internal work on a condo is permitted so long as we have adequate insurance for the contractors. The contractors cannot work any earlier than 9 AM or later than 5 PM or work on Sundays. As long as the work is internal to a unit, the architectural board has no say-so. Unfortunately, the current board seems to ignore this and their lackeys do as well. As the virus crisis started, it was announced that no contractors would be allowed in. At the time, I could not get any contractors willing to work, so no big deal. I finally got some with the adequate insurance and they allow them in, sort of. Now we are expected to submit everything through a portal, wait back for approval, and there is a waiting list. No more than 3 units at a time can have contractors working on them. None of this is in the bylaws. My attorney even pointed out that health and safety as a power/responsibility of the HOA is a slippery slope they should not want to be involved in, but they are. Also keep in mind what I said about rules applying to the whole complex that don't make sense for all units. People can enter and leave my unit without stepping foot in an enclosed common area like the high-rise units. I decided it was best to just get this done without raising a fuss, so I got the insurance proof in hand and let the contractors in. I'm not living there, so they can park in my parking space. Of course, someone noticed the property manager told them to leave or he would tow their vehicle. He then made all nicey nice and said that all I had to do was submit some paperwork, he would approve it and they could be let back in. He then went on to say he would disable the gate access token I had given them to ensure they cannot come back. I filled out the paperwork, but I have not heard a response. I highly doubt the prompt turnaround mentioned in conversation will come to pass. I've yet to deal with a property manager at this place that is not a two-faced lying piece of crap, but maybe this one won't be. I don't have high hopes, so what would you do? This is not a "can they do this" post. My own understanding is they have no right to tell my contractors to leave, to tow or to threaten to tow cars in my spot. I am fully paid up on my dues and have never been behind, or that someone cannot be working in my unit. I also don't think that they have a right to disable my access token. I have not checked, but I strongly suspect all of my tokens are disabled, effectively barring me from entry. They have done all those things anyway, because I guess they know you cannot do anything about it except execute a long drawn out legal battle. If you are looking to sell soon, that is obviously not something you're going to do. And someone in the comments suggested, if you cannot get in with your token, call the cops. You still own the place and it is normally illegal to stop you from going into your property. First thing is, get a lawyer who deals with HOAs. Regular lawyers get lost in the paperwork. And guys, unfortunately we have already reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories, and if you haven't already, please also go to patreon.com/ripeyoutube, where I upload exclusive Reddit videos starting at just $3 a month. This is a great way to support me in case you are interested, and the chance for me to become independent from YouTube revenue. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.